Hello, everyone. I'm back with Frank Harris. I think most of us know Frank by now, but if you don't, Frank is running for U.S. House of Representatives for Kentucky's 6th District, just like I am for Kentucky's 2nd District.
I did fourth today. I got it mixed up. Sorry, Robert. I get the second and the fourth mixed up. My apologies.
Well, now you have people thinking I'm running against Massey, and
Well, why are you doing
I
that?
wouldn't do that.
Thomas is pretty good.
Exactly. I mean, if Brett Guthrie were Thomas Massey in 2018, I just would have voted for him, and I wouldn't be doing this. It's that simple.
Good move.
So, but yeah, so you have, because a lot of people know you support legalization of cannabis. But you've been out in Triangle Park. Let me tell my phone to stop making noise at us. You've been out at Triangle Park with an exciting new sign, and not everybody's excited about it, and I kind of see why, because you're saying back the blue, and I mean probably a lot of people are thinking, kind of what I did, which is like, you mean the guys who followed me around aimlessly for hours when I was young, the state cop that had a pawn shop based off of illegal confiscations, the state cop that taught me how to plant cocaine in a car door. Those people, those are the people you're wanting me to back, Frank?
Well, I've been critical of the police over the years. I've posted a ton of videos about police brutality. I'm not saying that there's not problems.
Right.
There's a ton of problems, but I think we need to address them. So where I was kind of coming from was what I saw. I went downtown to Lexington. I live in Lexington, Kentucky. It's kind of most sort of toward the middle of the 6th District, slightly left of center. And way left of center politically. So I went down to the Black Lives Matter movement protest when they were in front of the main precinct on Main Street in Lexington. I just wanted to see what they were all about. I wanted to see what they were doing and what they stood for. And, what I saw right away was that they were all just kind of screaming at the police. Some of them had bullhorns, and they were just yelling at the police. I thought, well, that's not constructive. Where's your solution? And then the other thing is I noticed right away, there's a lot of really young people in law enforcement. I have to think there's a high turnover rate. But, even as a more mature 58-year-old, I wouldn't want to be a policeman.
Right.
It's a tough job. Imagine being out on the street, and Lexington's got some rough places. There's some places there where they don't like the police. A few years ago, maybe 20 some years ago, I remember there was a young lady on the police force that got hit in the head with a brick. She was doing her job. She was down somewhere in one of the bad parts of town around 3rd Street maybe. And somebody just hurled a brick toward the police, and it happened to hit her in the head. I'm thinking, man, that'd be kind of rough, dealing with. So you had the night I was there were close to maybe 70 people on Main Street just screaming at the police. And I thought, man, how would you like to be a policeman just sitting there enduring that? And they're human beings too. So I went back the next day and I talked to some of them. I said, man, that's no way to treat people. That's just no way to treat people. And the thing is the police don't even make policy.
Right.
The police have procedures, and sometimes, internal procedures are made by the police force, the police captain, or whoever. But largely, most of policy probably comes from City Hall or the governor's office or someplace like that. And so what they ought to be doing, instead of screaming at the individual policeman who didn't do most of the things that they were yelling about, they were yelling about individual acts of police brutality involving some of the different incidents that have happened in recent times. But the Lexington police were not involved in that. So yelling at the Lexington police isn't the way to go about solving this. So my suggestion is that we find a way to reason with the politicians. We need to have a list of what we think are reasonable solutions. Mm-hmm. And then let's say, hey, what do you think about these ideas? What would you all want to do to make these types of things happen? And what I'm talking about are like, the body cams. The body cameras were a good idea. But sometimes the police just blatantly turn them off.
Right.
And then there's things that are, crimes that are committed against civilians, and the police, 4 of them all have their body cams off. To me, that ought to be grounds for dismissal.
Now, did you see
at least a suspension?
Did you see Larry Sharp's quick plan?
No, I didn't.
Okay, that was let's see if I can get this all off the top of my head. It's end qualified immunity.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've talked about too.
In insurance, specifically personal insurance carried by the officers, just like
malpractice for doctors.
Exactly. So malpractice insurance for law enforcement.
That's one I have not incorporated into my thinking. Thank you for that.
Right, and that's the one. The let me hit the other ones real quick, but the second one's the one I really wanted to get to for what you just said. So the third is civil asset forfeiture, and the fourth is end or decriminalize or legalize. I can't remember the way he put it. Cannabis, because he's arguing, the war on drugs in general is the impetus of so much of this, but kind of the beginning even of the war on drugs and the low-hanging fruit to go ahead and pick is cannabis, because most of the country is ready for that to be legal anyway. So let's start there.
Oh, I agree with all those things. I think those are all good ideas.
But back to the insurance one, it reminds me of when a friend of mine worked for a 911 place. And 911 stations always record everything. And part of that is for covering liability, because if they misdispatch someone or, they do something wrong, they can be liable. So, you always want to record everything, because if you have a well-trained staff and you're doing your job right, it's that recording that's going to save your butt.
Yeah, and, it benefits everybody. Here's another thing. They're talking about systemic racism. Why don't we have cameras in courtrooms? Because there's a lot of judges pull a lot of things that are not legal, in my opinion. I've been in courts where I've seen things firsthand. In my opinion, I've been a victim of things firsthand that were not legal, that the judge had no authority to do. And I think it's in everybody's best interest to keep everything above board.
But in terms of the body cam, you wouldn't even, not to say I would be against the department having a policy on body cams, but if you required an officer to carry malpractice insurance, then it would be the insurance companies that end up making sure they have the body cams on. Because it's like, look, we go to court one time with you. When you don't have your body cam on, we are not covering you anymore. You're on your own after that.
See, I believe in forgiveness, and I believe everybody's entitled to one mistake. You get a warning. I think everybody should get a warning. And when it comes to law enforcement, I think we ought to go back to the whole idea of not being law enforcement officers, but being peace officers. Your famous thing, which was no victim, no crime. I loved how you did that. That was so much fun.
Thank you.
And so do me a favor. Ask me that real quick, would you?
Oh, no victim?
No crime.
There we go. It's not easy.
So that would go a long way toward making relationships between law enforcement and civilians a whole lot less stressful.
Right.
Make their jobs better. Make their jobs to where they're focused on serious crime, murder and rape and theft, things like that.
That's the thing. Even if cops are doing a good job of enforcing laws that a large swath of the society disagrees with or aren't enthusiastic about police officers enforcing, you end up driving a wedge between the police officers and the community. And all of us, all of a sudden, you have an illicit market or illicit markets, and you have people protecting the earnings of those markets, or you end up with people being pulled over. It's, for a broken taillight, but they think it's about the drug money in their trunk or something like that. And you end up with violence where you don't need it. I mean, managers driving home from Walgreens, and I'll wager also the Colorado dispensaries, if they get pulled over for a broken taillight, they're not real likely to pull a firearm on the officer. If you're an illegal narcotics dealer, that's a little different. And what's worse than the fact, in my opinion, what's worse, police officers may disagree, but in my opinion, what's worse than the fact that the police officers may have a firearm drawn on them for something like that is you create an environment of expectation. You create an environment where the police officers are going around worried that this guy that they're just pulling over, hey, you have I'm not even going to give you a ticket. Just get it fixed. If I see you driving past here, but they're not worried.
If you're speeding, hey, just slow down. We want you to be safe. Get off one warning. Everybody should have one warning.
Sure. But, while they're trying to do that, they're a little worried. I don't know this car. I don't know this person. And they are mentally looking for a gun. And if they've
got to assume the worst. Right. They've got to assume that you may be a felon and don't want to go back to prison.
And if you go through enough of your life looking for a gun because you're terrified somebody's going to pull one on you, sooner or later you're going to see it, whether it's there or not.
Well, it's got to be stressful. And imagine the toll it takes on their personal lives, having to deal with this kind of thing all the time.
Sure. But I mean, like I said that, but I'm not trying to excuse that behavior. I mean, if an officer gets to the point that he's seeing a gun, whether it's there or not, he can't be an officer anymore, in my opinion. It's like that. We can no longer afford that on the streets any more than we can afford a rapist or a murderer on the streets. At that point, they're done. And I'm sorry, but
I think police ought to have some downtime, paid downtime, even maybe sabbaticals. Like professors at college, every 1 year out of 7, they get a year off. Let a policeman have 2 or 3 months off. Every so often, I can say every 3 or 4 years, just give them 2 or 3 months off.
Rotate to less stressful duty, maybe?
Yeah, something. Just give them some downtime. And I can't imagine the toll it takes because, I'm an Uber driver, that. And I try to be home every night before 11. Sometimes I don't succeed at that. But after 11 o'clock, you start getting a higher percentage of people who were inebriated, right? Mm-hmm. They're not pleasant. Now, imagine you're a policeman and you've got a huge drunk guy, or maybe 2 or 3 huge drunk guys, and you've got to take them in. How unpleasant would that be? As an Uber driver, all I have to do is get them from point A to point B.
Now,
So that's bad enough. I don't want to deal with drunks, and imagine having to deal with people like that all the time. That's got to be rough.
So back to the discussion of systemic racism, because if you look at the stats, blacks are 2.7 times as likely on a per capita basis of being subject to police brutality versus whites. And by the way, they're not number one. They're not the number one group in that category. The number one group in that category in this country is actually Native Americans. They ring it out at I think 3.0 or 3.1. Wow. So the Native Americans actually get the raw end of that a little more even than the blacks. So, but what is your explanation for that? Why do you think that happens?
I haven't really looked very hard at the statistics. One of the things that I've seen suggested is that it has to do with having interactions with the police, that if you're committing a crime, you're going to have more interactions with the police. You could talk about profiling and things like that. But, I don't know what the statistics are, but what was suggested by this video that I saw was that blacks are involved in more crime, and therefore they're proportionally more likely to be involved in a negative way with law enforcement. And I'm not saying that there's not some cases of profiling, et cetera.
Right.
So, I don't know enough about it to say conclusively. But, you also have to look at, you look at some of the hardcore areas of Chicago, in places where there's a huge percentage of hardcore poor. And there's, a lot of black on black crime and things like that. Would you want to be a policeman in that neighborhood?
No.
Would you even want to go into that neighborhood as a white man at night?
I don't like to be anywhere near illicit markets. Is what it amounts to. I mean, you get the same story about, there's some hollers in Eastern Kentucky you don't want to go in.
Yeah.
It's it's not a black thing. It's just, there's areas that, if you don't know the family that lives in that holler, you don't want to be there. And that's not picking on my Eastern Kentucky friends.
No, my mother was from Eastern Kentucky, so I can talk about Eastern Kentucky and from a little bit of experience. But I had a friend that was a detective in Harlem. She was Puerto Rican, and she and I had so much fun. She was a funny lady, and she'd been a detective for 20 years. She said, if you came, meaning me, she said, if you came to Harlem during the day, you'd be fine. No problem at all. But she says, as a out of town white man, she said, you'd be dead in 3 days. Straight up. She said, you would be dead in 3 days because you would stand out. It would be obvious you're not from there. You would be a victim. You would get robbed. You would get beat up, whatever.
Now, what time frame was this?
Oh, I was friends with her about 10 years ago.
Okay.
So, she just said it flat out. There, you don't go there as an out of towner, and especially as a white person. And I know one time I was in Chicago, and this was 25 years ago, and we were on the Dan Ryan, I-94, and we just needed some groceries, so. I just pulled off on one of the exits and went into what looked like, a really nice supermarket or whatever. And I go in there, and I was the only white person in there, and everybody in there was staring at me. Like, I don't get, why are they staring at me? Am I not supposed to be here? I mean, is it that unusual for a white person to be in this store? I guess it was. I mean, I don't know. And so I got my stuff. I didn't have any problems or anything, but I thought, wow, how weird was that? I mean, I've never been in a place where I got stared at like that before. So, I'm kind of naive. I'm from Kentucky. I was 25 years younger. And I'm still kind of naive,
Well, it's just occurred to me. I've thought of a street, like I could drive you to it right now. I know exactly where it's at. It's central Kentucky. It's in a rural area. Sun's going down. If we drove down that street right now, we would get some odd looks. If we were there in like 2 more hours, we'd probably be in some trouble. And that has nothing to do with race.
White neighborhood or a black neighborhood?
It's a white neighborhood.
Wow.
It's a white neighborhood in rural Kentucky, but it's driven by an illicit market. And, that's my thing is, when you end up creating these illicit markets, you create a place where what's valued and what's not is distorted a little bit. And, because all of a sudden, law and order is the bad guy.
Once upon a time, I was a ticket scalper, which is a very free market thing.
Sure.
And I had tickets to it was some sort of heavy metal show up in Cincinnati, Iron Maiden, or
Mm-hmm.
a whole bunch of groups like that, like 4 or 5 groups all together.
Uh-huh.
I just had extra tickets. I had to get rid of them, and I thought, well, what the heck? I'm going to go in. I'm not a headbanger. The only heavy metal group I've ever really liked is AC/DC. I like them a lot. And I go in there, and this was 15 years ago. So I'm in my early 40s, 43, 44. And I go in there and I hear narc. People just assume because I'm an older guy that I was a narc. Like, no, I'll smoke a joint with you, But it's funny. You've got to you've got to laugh about things, the assumptions that people make, and all kinds of things.
Right. Now, the second half of your sign really excites me more than the first half, because find solutions together. I mean, that's something we should be doing systemically. Whether regardless of which side of this you're on, and that starts by being willing to communicate with others who come from a different context than you, have lived a different life than you, have different viewpoints than you, because you don't need to talk to the person who already agrees with you. That's right. I mean, it might feel good, but it's kind of a waste of time. Right? You're not going to learn that much.
Yeah, right.
It's like one of my instructors in college always told us is if you open a book and you're reading through it, it makes a lot of sense and you're getting what they're saying, you're reading the wrong book. The book you need to read is the book where you read a page and you really struggle with it and you have to put it down and think about it for a while, then come back, pick it back up, struggle through some more. That's the book that's worth reading. That's what you want to read. But conversations are kind of the same way. If you're not having conversations with people who make you, what? Wait, huh? Then you're not really experiencing the growth you're probably after. And I need to challenge myself on that more. So I applaud you for going out as much as you do. I've gone out a little. I need to go out a little more.
Today was day 8. Monday through Friday, I'm going out. Day 8 in the last 2 weeks. So tomorrow will be day 9. Friday will be day 10.
Well, I learned a good bit going and talking to the unemployed in Frankfurt, and the huge thing I got off
I did that one day too, about a month ago.
Yeah, I followed your lead on that. I did it twice, so I bested you, but you did it first.
Bested me? What do you mean?
I did it twice.
Well, I'm glad that you exceeded my high standards.
I need to do it more. But the thing that was really the thing I really got out of that is it's not that people were just angry about the money. It was the rampant confusion and disorganization. I mean, people were driving for hours to find out.
4 hours to get to Frankfurt. Yeah.
No news, come back tomorrow.
Yeah. What? Oh, we're closed and we don't really have a reason. We're just closed.
Yeah. And I mean, that's insane.
Isn't it?
Right. So, back to the discussion of abuse of force in police departments. We need to start talking not only with the victims, but also the law enforcement, because we need to understand where these conflicts come from and how to reduce them. And I certainly already have my opinions on that, because I started developing them back in 2014 when I was hanging out with David Patterson during his Senate run.
A very good man. I love David Patterson.
And I agree. Bravo, David. But, honestly, I mean, I feel like I should go to more BLM rallies. I've only been to one. I talked to I talked to, I don't know, maybe a dozen people there. The problem with them is, or the one I went to anyway, is it was such an organized event and it was so inwardly focused that it was very limited in how much you could converse with people without robbing them of the show. So most of the people I got to talk to were people throughout Frankfurt that I would sort of snag after the event. They would be wearing a BLM t-shirt or something like that, and I would snag them and talk to them then, rather than the event itself. Because the event, they were watching the show, and I didn't like ignore the show. Talk to. Yeah, wouldn't be fair. But I need to try again.
And what I do too is and this is all things. When there's an issue, I look at not only what's being said, but who are the people that are supporting it. Are the people that are supporting it thinkers, or are they just blindly following whatever the leadership tells them? Can they articulate a position?
I had at least 6 very lucid conversations there.
That's good. That's good. So you know, I'm not going to mention particular causes. I'll just get in trouble. But I, you know, I have certain assumptions about different groups. And so,
well, you know what they say of assumptions, Frank.
I know, but so I want to say what the first one is so bad. All right, I'm going to say what this one is. All right. So,
okay.
All right. So I went to a Trump rally in 2016 in the primaries.
Okay.
This particular event was in I think May, before the actual primaries. Maybe it was in April.
Right.
And I just wanted to see, what was your typical Trump supporter like? And all my assumptions were verified. and so I look for patterns in all things, in causes, in investments, in trends, you name it. I look for patterns. I'm a math guy. I'm a computer science guy. And to me, a lot of times patterns tell the story. So I'm always looking to see, are the people that are affiliated with this particular cause reasonable? Are they rational? Are they just angry? Are they willing to listen to other points of view? And quite often, when a person isn't willing to even listen to another point of view, that doesn't speak real highly of their particular cause.
Well, but there's certain emotional things that push a person very quickly to that point. Fear, anger, extreme frustration. And I mean, you know, you're talking about the Trump rally, but I mean, that gets back to your sign as, you know, back the blue, and you have the, you know, they're associating this top half here. I've got my mouse over the wrong thing. You can't see that, but you've got this top half here over, oh, well, you can't see it anyway. You've got the top half over the blue flag, and they know you're talking about like the thin blue line or something like that. They're thinking that context.
Yeah. And that's why I felt like it was very important that I add the phrase, let's find solutions together.
Yeah, I'm just worried that they won't make it that far, but they might.
Let's find solutions implies that, yes, I'm acknowledging that there are problems.
Yeah, I agree. I get it. But if somebody's already frustrated or angry, I can see how they get angry at you before they get that far.
People need to calm down. I mean, that's why I say I'm looking for reasonable people. I've been saying for a while, I just want to find reasonable people that are willing to sit down and talk with each other. And all colors, shapes, and sizes. I find friends all the time of all colors, shapes, and sizes. And I love it when I do. I love it when I find reasonable people. They're my favorite people in the world.
But you, hey, look, my mouth quit moving. Let me see if my video catches up. Anyway, I think I'm caught up now. I don't know what that looked to the world, but to me, it was really funny. So, you know, back to the Trump people, though.
Oh, let's not. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. I mean, I have Trump friends who are very rational people, but they're hyper focused on one or two things.
Yeah.
But the thing that swung the vote for Trump, in my opinion, is the group that got described in Hillbilly Elegy. And just full disclosure here, I'm half Appalachian myself. So I was reading. I was, yeah, you're from Eastern Kentucky. So I was reading that book and I'm like,
my mother was from Eastern Kentucky. My dad was from Western Kentucky. He was a hilltopper and my mother was a hillbilly.
There you go.
So I'm one of these days, I'm going to get serious about my genealogy and see how many generations I can go back and still be in Kentucky.
Right.
I know at least 2 and probably 4 or 5, you know.
I'm not into genealogy, but I happen to have seen mine. We've been here a while. Well, actually, my family tends to hop around a bit, but you know, Kentucky, Indiana, Kentucky, Texas, Kentucky. Yeah, that's us. We're kind of
Appalachia. I've got a feeling. I've got some Irish in me. I have a feeling. You know, they settled in Appalachia like a lot of Irish people did.
Right.
And I think they probably settled there in the 1800s, you know.
But it's less surprising now that you and I are kind of natural friends, because I caught on at one time, like after I read the book Hillbilly Elegy, it's like half the families of my friends in high school that I continue to be friends with, it's like we have the same story.
Well, and the fact that we're cousins and sisters, that means a lot to me.
So you mentioned you mentioned you look for patterns.
Yeah,
you're an investor, and I know one of your
good segue, Robert. Good segue.
I know one of your things is gold and silver.
Yeah,
and I didn't have time to grab us a silver chart, but I did grab us a gold chart, and we see it. We see it spiking.
They're very similar.
Mm-hmm. We see it spiking nicely in about 2011, and then you can't quite see it because of the edge of the graph, but it's right up here again this year. And
you see that little dip right after 2008, toward the end of 2008.
Yep. Boom.
That was the crash, and then right after that's when the money printing started.
Right. And look what else I got. I got the monetary.
You're way more familiar with that stuff than I am. I'm not into that. I don't know. You'll have to explain that to me.
So this is the money printing you just.
Is that the monetary supply?
Yep. This is the monetary base total. So this first little curve here at between, it's around 2009, that is the printing of the money. And the thing that is really shocking is you look at it all the way since the 60s, you get this little blip here, but you generally have a smooth curve all the way
until
the housing crisis, and it goes boom.
Yeah.
And a lot of us freaked out because we're like, do you know what this is going to do to inflation? Now, the thing is, I was wrong. I was wrong as everybody else, except I give myself one bit of credit, is I was smart enough to say once leveraged, because even though this is the printed money, this is not the majority of our money. Like, most of our money is borrowed into existence. It's leveraged against the monetary basis. So if you go to a bank and borrow money for your house, they don't actually give out the money that's on deposit. What they do is they leverage against it. So they're literally write.
They're allowed certain ratios. Yeah, they're allowed to lend. I think it's 9 to 1. They're allowed to lend 9 times the amount of money that they actually have.
Right. You can, the traditional in this country is you can lend 9 times the money that you have on deposit at the Federal Reserve. And then when you have deposits in savings accounts, specifically savings accounts,
so-called cash, right?
You can treat that as if 1/10 of it were on deposit on the Federal Reserve. So if I go to a bank and I deposit $10,000, you can then go into a bank and they can write $9,000 into existence based on what I've.
Right.
So by the time you consider $1 being printed, by the time it's leveraged, banks can make about $81,000 out of that.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's absolutely crazy. Nutty. So I was at least smart enough to know it was going to lead to rampant inflation once leveraged. What I didn't understand was it wasn't going to be leveraged. And you can see that in the M2 money supply. So in the M2 money supply, you see it leveraged a little here, but look what happened this year. This year's different.
Oh, so, it's insane. It's insane. And that's why gold and silver are moving up right now. Right.
So, I mean, and every single time we start printing money like mad, there's people like me and Ken Molman, and I think also you going, sooner or later we're gonna lose what's it called?
Solvency?
Well, no, not solvency. Status as the
world's reserve currency status. Yeah.
Reserve currency. Thank you. I always forget reserve currency. Yeah. We'll lose reserve currency status, and once we do that, you'll see rapid inflation. And just today on Bloomberg, I saw someone just laughing about it because they're like, they say this every time, ha 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 ha, and they're right. We say it every time, and we've been wrong every time so far.
The people, though, that have been right the most, the people that I've been watching over the last 10 plus years are all saying the same thing. These are people that predicted the 2008 crash for all the right reasons. These are people that are very successful in investing. People like Peter Schiff, Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio is a billionaire. Mark Faber, Jim Rogers, Lynette Zhang. I'm going to cry. These are people that are all saying the same thing now. And they've been saying the same thing for 10 or more years. What's about to happen is not going to be pretty. And so the only way to keep your wealth safe, wealth is a store of value.
Right.
Is buying silver and buying gold. And see, in the last 2 weeks, you've seen silver leave its normal trench of about $16 to $19. Now we're up to 24. A couple days ago, we were actually at 26. In, I want to say 5 days, it moved up $5, which is huge. That's unheard of. I mean, those are huge moves for silver to go from 19 to actually they went to 26 in maybe a week's time. So those are not normal moves. So everything I've been reading, everything I've been seeing says that the resistance level for gold is 1900. Well, gold has gone through that. They've gone through that. So and whatever gold does, silver is going to follow. And everything I'm seeing about silver is that silver is mined at an 8-to-1 ratio to gold. The ratio right now from gold to silver is 80-to-1. That means that there's going to be a huge move up in silver compared to gold if silver catches up, and it should. The theory is, the prevailing theory is, and this has been borne out by people that are smarter than me. I can't really truly explain it. But there has been a suppression in the price of silver, and it involves the trading in the futures markets. And so what I've been hearing in the last 3 or 4 weeks is that people that used to short silver, where they would say, I'm going to buy silver at this price at a future date, or pay so much for silver at a future date, they're not shorting silver anymore. Like JP Morgan, they are taking physical possession of silver. That means that the supply of silver is going to tighten up. one of the guys, and I can't remember the person's name, but he's like the CEO of First Majestic Silver, a silver mining company. He deals with industrial players, people, electronics companies, people that are making cell phones, computers, cars, electric cars. Mm-hmm. And he says that basically they don't want to tell you how much they need. They just, because it's a big secret. If you knew how desperate they were, then you would have them over a barrel. So people like Elon Musk, he's begging now for nickel miners to come up with nickel. Same is going to be true of silver. Same is going to be true of gold. And so there's a rumor that Elon Musk is looking for his own lithium mine. You know, he wants to own a lithium mine so that he's got a supply of lithium.
Right. And just to be clear, like what Frank just said about nickel miners, I mean, this isn't like some hush-hush thing. Yeah. Elon Musk, in the earnings report, basically, you know, when they were doing the Q&A, he was like, oh, by the way, if there's any nickel miners out there, don't wait for prices to go back up. Go ahead and invest. If you can mine nickel in an environmentally friendly and sustainable way,
whatever you want. Yeah.
Come do business with Tesla. Tesla will make a contract with you. We'll make it right now.
He doesn't care what the price is. He just wants to make sure he gets it.
He wants the damn nickel. He needs the damn nickel. He needs the nickel for the batteries. It's needed.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Robert. My apologies.
Oh no. I was just going to say it's needed for the high energy density batteries.
So as much as the silver and gold markets are going to tighten up and the price of gold and silver is going to skyrocket, my personal prediction, and this doesn't mean anything, please don't do anything based on my recommendations. Please do your own research. I am not a financial advisor. I believe we're going to see $35 to $50 silver this year, before the end of this year, 2020. I believe next year we're going to see triple digit silver, $100 plus. And you know, I don't really, I'm not as knowledgeable, or I'm not as fluent in the language of gold. But I think you're going to see $3,000 silver next year. I think you're going to see.
You mean gold? $3,000 gold.
I think it's. Did I say silver? Yeah. I think you're going to see 2,500 gold this maybe this year, maybe. I think it's going to hit at least 2,200, 2,300 this year.
There's big banks predicting that.
A lot of people.
You ain't going out there on a limb.
Well, I think next year, I think you're looking at $3,000 gold, maybe even $5,000 gold. I think it's possible. I don't think it's likely. I think you could see $300 silver next year. Is it likely? I wouldn't think so. But is it possible? Yeah, I think it is. And if you look at the chart, I was hoping you'd bring up this chart, the price of silver over the last 15 years. So when they started printing money back in 2009, the price of silver went all the way up to 50. So that was, 11 years ago. The conditions are much worse now with the money printing. So if silver could go to 50 11 years ago, it could easily go to 300 today.
Yeah, I'm going to get too distracted trying to find that, so I'll skip it. Well, I'm not the precious metal bug you are. Not that I disagree with anything you're saying. I'm just not into it as much as you. But good luck finding any long-term investor who says put it in cash. Nobody says could have put it in cash.
Although, let me say this about that. So there's the big wild card in this whole thing is another crash of the stock market. And one of the things, I post this on my webpage all the time. It's Ray Dalio's video, "How the Economy Works." It's one of the best videos you'll ever watch. I tear up thinking about it.
Ray Dalio's saying it's working, huh? That's encouraging.
Ray Dalio. Well, I mean, if it's allowed to work, if the government gets out of the way, it can work. But Ray Dalio talks about the concept of deleveraging. Deleveraging is what happened in 2008 and 2009, when everybody When the price of the stock market started to drop and margin calls were taking place and people were tightening their belts, they had to liquidate. They had to sell their assets, whatever assets they have. Well, what happens when everybody's selling at the same time? Well, the price of whatever you're selling tanks. Right. Going back to my days as a ticket scalper, this is exactly what I saw as a ticket scalper. You know the difference between, let's go back, this is 30 years ago. I was a ticket scalper over a period of 20 years back in my high school and college. And then I became a ticket scalper again about 20 years ago, briefly, for about 4 or 5 years. So the difference between a concert where you can, let's go back to 1980s prices when a concert was $25, okay? The difference between being able to pick up a ticket that night for $20 versus having to pay $60 or $80 or $100 is 200 people. 200 people. If you had 200 people looking for tickets and no tickets were available, or the tickets were in short supply, you were at the mercy of the scalpers.
Right.
If you had 200 tickets available and no buyers, you could literally walk up and give $10 for a ticket. So that's the difference between a tight market and a loose market. And the exact same thing happens in the stock market. When you've got 3 times as many sellers as buyers, that price is going to go to the floor.
Right.
And that's what I saw in 2008. There were blue chip companies, like the one I talk about all the time is Ashland Oil. Ashland Oil was trading at roughly $65, $67 a share. Take a guess at what it fell to.
I have no idea.
$6 a share.
How much did you buy?
And it didn't. Silly me! I had it when it was 65. I didn't sell it. So I wrote it down. I wrote it back up. And so what I learned from that experience is cash is king in the short term when deleveraging occurs. So it does. And so my portfolio, what I'm hoping for right now, I'm taking a risk. I've got this stock that's making a COVID test kit. I'm holding stock in that company. If I didn't have stock in that company, what I would have right now is mostly physical silver and some cash. So I'm hoping for good things from this stock. If it tanks, then I'm going to have to sell some of my physical silver so that I do have cash on hand. And what I plan on doing is investing in the mining stocks. We need to talk about that a little bit too, the leverage factor with mining stocks. But you need cash, because when the stock market does crash, and I believe it will, within no way it goes beyond a year. No way. Likely even this year.
Right.
Deleveraging is going to happen once again. And who's got reserves anymore? Nobody's got personal savings. I mean, America, we used to be savers. We're not anymore. Everybody's leveraged to the hilt. Everybody's got mortgages.
This year we are. This year we're savers again.
Well, everybody's got student loan debt or mortgage debt, credit card debt, and so who's got cash? It's going to be a buyer's market. It's going to be a buyer's market when it comes to buying stock after the crash. I think you're going to see stocks drop 80 to 90% again, maybe even 95%. And then you're going to be able to swoop in if you've got cash and take your pick. Take your pick. Just find some blue chip companies. Hope Warren Buffett doesn't get there first. Because Warren Buffett just recently, said he wasn't buying anything. Now he's found I think it's an oil and gas company. So he's investing heavily in this oil and gas company, but it was because the price was right. But I bet you old Warren's got some cash sitting back, and I bet you he's waiting for the stock market to collapse too.
Well, you don't have to bet on that. There's public knowledge about how much cash Warren. I don't keep up with it, but it's in the tens of billions. Yeah. It might actually. I know it exceeded. I'm pretty sure it exceeded 100 billion last year. I don't know where he's at this year, but
so what Warren's smart. He says, I don't really care what the market's doing he's talking about, like if let's just take a company. He is, I think, still in railroads. Let's say there's a slowdown in railroads. He doesn't care. He knows at some point it's going to come back up.
right.
So what his biggest concern is when he buys something new is that he gets it at a bargain price.
Right.
And then he's going to hold it and he's going to wait for the economy to rebound. He's a long-term player. He's not looking at short-term
returns.
He's looking at long-term returns. So he's bought very strategically. He's bought commodities and he's dumped his airline stock. What does that tell you?
Yeah, truly. I see three major risks in the coming couple of years. The first is that we fall into a deflationary trap. The second is
There's nothing wrong with deflation, but go ahead.
The second is that we fall into a inflationary trap, and I know it's crazy to have both those concerns at the same time, but
what about stagflation?
Yeah, I count that as inflationary, but you're right, it's slightly different because stagflation
is when you've got inflation, but nobody's buying anything.
Right, and then the thing that really concerns me is there's a change in conditions, and when you apply a change of conditions to an ecosystem such that some subset of the population is going to ultimately die, it doesn't just fall over dead. It goes along for a while, and then you have sort of the systemic unwinding of part of the ecosystem. And in financial systems, I believe you'll see the same thing. So we've had a systemic change in conditions, and as that plays out, if that systemic change stays in place, and what I mean by that is how comfortable we feel sitting next to each other at a bar or on a plane or on a train or taking an Uber from this guy we've never met before.
How about being able to go to the grocery store without getting attacked by a mob?
Sure. If those things remain in place, then the relative value of all these different businesses change radically. I mean, your favorite restaurant is not going to stay in business if they're only allowed to seat 25% of the people they used to be able to seat. It's just not going to work. Or if it does, it's going to be because you pay like 3 or 4 times as much for food, for service.
Yeah.
So, there's going to be some set of changes to play out the next couple of years. And the specific predictions are very, very hard to make because it's a complex system.
Well,
and
you have to worry about government intervention. And
Absolutely.
Whatever should be done, government's not going to do that. Government's going to do something to benefit government and keep control and screw it up. That's what they do. They do.
That's the paradoxical thing is they'll look at everything I just said and they'll say, oh, well, we have to step in so that these things don't happen. Folks, that's not going to work. All those adjustments I just talked about, if these conditions stay around permanently, those things will happen.
Look at how many things government's already done to make things worse. All these shutdowns.
Right.
So what I see is the major uncertainties going forward. One, the day of the stock market collapse. When is that day? Nobody knows. Nobody can know. I think it's going to be sooner rather than later.
Right.
2, how long does it last? I think it's going to be very long lasting. But you've got companies like Tesla that are going to be good investments. You've got other companies that are going to be good investments. It's a matter of finding them. I still want to talk about mining stocks, by the way. So and then 3, you've got this big variable. What if government decides, losing world reserve currency status. That's a big variable. And then the last big variable is, what if they destroy the dollar and there's hyperinflation and they implement, a completely different currency, and they say, okay, whatever you have in dollars, we're going to give you one new dollar for every old dollar. But at the same time, so your old dollars are going to be worthless. They won't have any value at all. But the new dollar doesn't have as much purchasing power. And that could happen. And they're talking about a digital currency, and heaven help us all. If we go to a digital currency, that means we will be virtual slaves. You won't be able to buy anything, including land, your house, a car. You won't be able to truly own anything because they can just shut off your account.
Right. And I like to be clear, I love Bitcoin. I don't own Bitcoin. I'm just, I studied it back in like 2011, 2012, just conceptually. I love Bitcoin. But, Brett Guthrie, my opponent, he's looking at Bitcoin right now, not because that's a thing he's talking about we can't be left behind with Bitcoin. Not being left behind as a country with Bitcoin, that is a cakewalk. All you got to do is keep government out of it. I mean, hell,
leave Bitcoin alone, Bitcoin will be fine. Yeah.
Right. Facebook already tried to do it with Libra. You could just look at Zuckerberg and go ahead. You'll have it tomorrow.
There's hundreds. Are there not hundreds of digital currencies?
There are. But the reason Brett wants involved, the reason our government wants involved, is so that it's not a free currency. Right. They want it to be a digital replacement of the dollar, like Frank sang.
A mandatory currency, yes.
Right. So, they want to move from one monopolistic money supply to another.
Exactly. Exactly. So let's go. If we've got time, let's explore that some more. But let me throw in the mining stock thing.
We've been on for 57 minutes.
So here's my thing on the mining stock, and I'm kind of new with the mining stock game. I own a very small amount of mining stocks. I own one called McEwen, stock symbol MUX. I own First Majestic Silver, stock symbol AG. And then I don't even know the name of the third one I own. I think it's stock symbol EDX or EXD or EXK. It's got 3 letters, and I don't even know. I'd have to look. But the way that the mining stocks are leveraged is this. When the price of gold and silver go up, mining stocks go up. But here's the kicker. The break-even point for mining companies mining gold is roughly $1,600 to $1,700 an ounce. Okay? So that means that at the $2,000 price, which we're almost at with gold, they're making roughly, let's say, $300 an ounce profit. Okay? Now, let's say gold goes up by 20%. So instead of selling at $2,000 an ounce, it's selling at $2,400 an ounce. Okay? So that means that instead of having a $300 price profit margin, they've got a $700 price profit margin. So their profit margin has more than doubled, even though gold has only gone up 20%. That's why the mining stocks may be the place to be. That being said, what's the trade-off? Well, one, you don't own any physical gold or silver. You're still in dollars at that point. So
you're in mining stock.
Well, you're in mining stock, which is based in dollars. And let's say that the dollar starts to unravel. Well, you've then got to acquire gold and silver at a higher price. So, the formula that I've seen the most is everyone should own 10 to 20% of their total assets in physical gold or physical silver or some combination of the two. And I would even throw in copper, palladium, whatever your favorite metal is. Right. Doesn't matter, really.
You're sounding like the monocle on the Monopoly game, or the little rich hat. You know, people are thinking you're all sorts of wealthy and investing in gold and silver.
No,
And
I don't have that much money. I'm just saying, whatever you have, you want to make sure that you don't lose it all. You don't want to see it
Right.
dissolve. You don't want to say, if you've got a 401k, and we could talk about, the idea of confiscation there. There's been rumors for the last 10 or 11 years that the government wants to step in and nationalize everybody's 401k. What happens if that happens? And then, they might even do means testing on your 401k. They do means testing on Social Security. They don't even give you your Social Security if you make too much money. So, what's to keep them from doing the same thing with 401ks? So you've got to have some physical gold and physical silver to make sure that you don't lose everything you have in a dissolving, collapsing dollar.
I'm more of a general diversify guy, but don't keep it all in cash, folks. That's you're not gonna find anybody serious that says keep it all in cash. No.
I talked my wife into letting me buy more physical silver, and I'm trying to talk her into getting out of the stock market. So so what I have is about 20% of what, my little play money is only 20% of her money. And I keep telling her my money's going to be bigger than your money before very much longer.
Right. All right. Well, we've been yapping at people for an hour and 1 minute, man. It reminds me of the scene in Amadeus where the emperor says, "Too many notes."
Oh,
we used too many words.
Well, who's the inventor, or the lady that makes the costumes in The Incredibles? Edna Mode. Too many words, blah, blah, blah. You're interfering with the now, or something like that.
Well, anyway.
She has some brilliant lines.
Thanks. I should have said at the very top of this, like, comment, share. I got to get in a better habit of saying that, but it's not too late. Like, comment, share. Help us out with the algorithms here. Get a little publicity for Frank. Get a little publicity for me. And if you live in the Lexington area, Frank, you're showing up Triangle Park daily from 4 to 6.
Mostly Triangle Park. At some point, I'm going to hit other locations. I mean, Triangle Park is a really good location. My guess is 5,000 to 10,000 cars a day go through there, more on Friday than on other days.
You could help Frank wave a sign.
I need people just out there with me. It would really help a lot. It's miserably hot right now. If you do come out, bring water, bring a hat, and know that it's hot.
Yeah, bringing water is good. If people stop and talk, maybe even offering them water if you see they're getting
a free T-shirt. Can't beat that.
Woo! Or I tried to make it up today to just shoot a video of Frank. Shoot a video of Frank out there waving a sign and send it to him on social media so he can share it, or maybe get it to me and I'll
or passed out in the street. One of the two,
Yeah, either one. As a matter of fact, I kind of prefer the passed out on the street one now that I can get through.
I should just lay down on the sidewalk with a sign over my head,
There you go. Or of course you could go to my website, Perry4KY, donate money to me, or gold or silver. I don't really take that, but give me a jingle. We'll figure it out. Tesla stock, whatever you like. I'll figure out how to put that toward the campaign.
I'm a Tesla devotee now. I tell you. I mean, in an Elon Musk guru, or disciple, I should say. Disciple.
Yeah, we still gotta go. We gotta go out on the interstate and play in mine a little bit. I mean, I do all the time, but I went to Orlando with Reagan and Randall. A little bit of a road trip. That was good fun.
Did you have it on auto drive?
Most of the way, sure.
Did you?
Yeah.
How does it do in cities? Does it perform well in cities?
Well, I mean, like it doesn't navigate turns in cities, but it will automatically stop for stoplights and stuff like that. They're still working on a major overhaul of the driving system. As Elon puts it, right now it's like working in 2.5 dimensions. I mean, it's kind of like, yeah.
I still don't know how it handles construction zones.
Better. It's getting there because it's all vision based. So it'll identify cones and like it'll automatically switch lanes to move away from the cones and stuff like that.
There's things that are blocked though. I mean, the cones actually block the turn or the other cones that are there, and you can't see through those cones.
Well, we'll have to go play with it, but
I'll show you some places on New Circle Road. I want to see what happens.
I probably drove those last night.
Newtown Pike, Georgetown Road. Go over to Georgetown Road and tell me how it works. I did last night. I went and picked up Carla from where she works on the way to the meet the vice chair. I went and met the vice chair last night. I hope I didn't see all of you there, I don't think, but yeah, if you didn't get to meet the vice chair, last night was your chance. You've met him. I've met him. Okay, most of us in the party have met him and known him for years, but I do get a kick out of calling him the vice chair. Anyway, we've gabbed enough and then some more. So we will let us know what you want to have Frank back for, and we'll have Frank back. Else Frank will just come up with his own topic, and I'll have him back for that. Well, if it's 2 weeks or more, I dare say silver will be at 27.
We can
higher.
We can just have a semi-monthly show on silver prices.
I'm your guy.
All right. Thank you for joining me, Frank.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate
it. Absolutely. Thanks to everyone for joining. And like I said, like, comment, share, help us get out there. It's an easy thing you can do to help. Thanks. Have a good night, everyone.